For me, the idea that I would meditate, I don't even know where that came from, because I don't come from a long line of meditators. Like, I always joke that if my grandfather knew how much time I spent barefoot in public, he'd be rolling in his grave. Like, he'd want to die all over again because like that's not where I come from, that's not who I am. And so when I was like, I'm gonna meditate, right? I wasn't even gonna tell anybody that. I downloaded the Headspace app and I just started doing it 10 minutes before work in the morning. And it was effective, right? But that was still like not a conversation I was having with people. I thought it was kind of strange, and kind of told my parents a little bit. I remember telling my dad basically, I'm gonna try this meditation thing, but I don't want it to change who I am, right? I had all those same preconceptions that somehow it was gonna make me soft, or it was gonna make me sort of, I don't know, overly sensitive, and bad stereotypes around it. And then about 2 years later, he was driving me to JFK so I could fly to Nepal to do a 10-day silent meditation retreat. And I remembered that conversation, being like, oh, remember when this said you didn't want this to change you? And in some ways it hasn't changed me at all. I'm still like a very regular guy, and anyone who meditates is regular, right? But in some ways it's changed me drastically. Teaching meditation was like honestly never part of the plan. Happiness always came easy for me. Like, it was never ever difficult for me to be happy. It was just very natural, and I always thought that was the way it was just kind of supposed to be. And it was probably around my mid-20s that I noticed like happiness was becoming more difficult. Like, it wasn't automatic, and I think for someone like me, the first time you kind of have like those anxious or depressive feelings are like, what's wrong with me, right? Ultimately, you'll realize like, that's just the slings and arrows of life, right? But at the time, it was very sort of disconcerting. Like, I'd kind of lost my way a little bit, because it was something that was never hard to be joyful or whatever, or to feel like things weren't good. That was a strange feeling. And then you find out, oh, other people in my family have had this, close friends have had this. But even when that was happening to me, really like, probably 24, 25, right? I feel like the conversation around mental health, it being natural, wasn't really there, which is crazy to say, because that was only about 10, 12 years ago. It felt like there was something wrong, or you weren't supposed to tell people, but no one ever teaches you skills, right? And so, above all, meditation is not for a certain type of person, and it's not in a certain type of place. If you can sit, you can breathe, if your heart beats, you have thoughts, you can meditate. And the benefits are waiting. There's no barrier to entry, there's no wall to climb. It's here for you now, right? You, wherever, demographic, gender, race, creed, identity, whatever. Like, I don't care. Like, it's waiting for you, it's here. So today is World Meditation Day. To sort of recognize that and to experiment with that, I'm taking 10 stops over 10 hours to lead 10 practices for 10 different groups of people all around Western Massachusetts. The whole thesis of the day is that meditation can work anywhere, because meditation works everywhere. It's not for a specific type of person. It's not exclusive to a specific environment. And that's what I'm out to sort of prove today with all these different groups of people that I'm working with. The main idea, to present it really quickly to people, and what I mostly said throughout the day, it varied a little bit depending on the audience, but essentially was this idea that we need to take a step back to sharpen our own axes, right? So the story is there's two identical twin brothers, same height, same weight, same exact size, ability level, whatever. Their father brings them out to the woods, gives them each an axe and says, I need you guys to chop down trees for the next 6 hours. The first brother does that. He just keeps swinging his axe for 6 hours. The other brother chops for 50 minutes, 5-0. Then he takes a 10-minute break to sharpen his axe and then goes back to swinging, right? Every hour on the hour. So at the end of the day, brother A has chopped for 6 hours, brother B 5. But brother B ultimately produces more lumber in less time because he's not using a dull tool, right? And all these places I went into, I was like, how many of us are just swinging, right? How many of us are using dull tools? Because we actually don't take that step back to move forward, right? I have t-shirts that say, do less, gain more, which is a paradox. That's not what we're taught in Western culture. It's like you work this hard, you get this much, and this is the result, and you just keep doing it. And that's not true, right? We all know that as we hit a certain point where we become ineffective, we become negatively effective, and there's burnout, there's compassion fatigue, there's retention issues in a lot of the places I work because people just keep grinding through. So I was going in there just saying like, hey, we're gonna take 15 minutes here and sharpen our axes, right? Reset. And that's all it is, right? That's all meditation has to be, is that little reset, because you have been grinding, because you have been just pushing it and trying to accomplish more and produce more. And that myth of productivity being the only value is damaging, right? And so that step back, oh wait, you know, from the outside, you're truly doing nothing, right? If someone walked into one of those rooms and they just saw what we were doing, sitting there, eyes closed, breathing, right? They'd say they were doing nothing. And yet, when the eyes open and we move forward, everyone there, most people there, know that we got something out of it, right? It's pulling the arrow back so you can shoot it forward, right? You're not being passive, you're not being lazy, you're literally just sharpening the axe or pulling the bow and arrow back to spring yourself forward. So you can be more effective, more efficient, more available in the things you love to do, right? I don't expect anyone to become a meditator. I don't want that, right? That's boring. Can meditation enhance you as an athlete? Can it make you more present as a family member? Can it make you more efficient in your job so you can leave work at work? Those are the things I'm interested in, right? I'm not interested in creating an army of meditators. That's useless, right? How do we use this as a tool to become more effective or enhance the things we really care about, the things we're really passionate about? You know, after practice being like, how'd it go? You know, what was that like for you? And it's like crickets, you know. Part that's good if people are relaxed and they're not like ready to talk yet, but part of it too is like, there's a little self-consciousness, right? You're a little like worried about what it is. And then one-on-one, people are like, oh my God, that was, you know, thank you so much. That was amazing. Like, I feel so good or whatever. So it was like initially I was sort of like, oh, did this not really land? But it seemed like people more on like a one-on-one level appreciated it, took something out of it. And I think that's part of it, is like, you can't really judge it from the outside. You can't necessarily know like someone else's experience. It's sort of largely individual, right? And as I've made mention, or I've said before, like I kind of view it as being like bumpers on a bowling alley, right? Like I'm just sort of guiding people, but actually just keeping them out of the gutter. But like what happens with them is sort of up to them. Good seeing you. Absolutely. How's everybody today? All right, well, I've met, I think, most everybody before. If we haven't, my name is Billy Rosenbeck. I run a company called the Mellow Elephant Meditation. So I don't know if you know what we're doing today, but today is World Meditation Day. And
to recognize that, I am taking a road trip all across Western Massachusetts because my basic belief is that this practice of meditation doesn't discriminate against people, and it's not for a specific type of person in a specific type of place. And it seems to me that most first responders, because of the nature of the job, the stresses you encounter, the burnout that can happen, secondary trauma, whatever, like there's some dull tools.
I myself was a little apprehensive the first time when an officer came to me who was friends with Billy and said, hey, I know this guy and he does this meditation thing. I was like, I'm not sure. So the skepticism, I think, comes from the belief that meditation is this hippy-dippy, foo-foo type of practice that is not particularly macho.
Yeah.
It's not something that first responders might be inclined to do because of their perception of it as a kind of soft practice. But the funny thing is that meditation doesn't actually involve talking about emotions, which is great. I think that's what a lot of the first responders discover, is that meditation is not sitting around and talking about all of the feelings they have, right? Meditation is about realizing that you're having thoughts, and that you then, once you realize that you have thoughts, that you can do something about it. You can either continue to have the thoughts, or you can choose to think about something else, or you can choose to meditate. Like, that's what it is. Meditation is helpful for first responders because when they get that call, they can practice meditation in the moments immediately after they get that call to reduce some of their stress and prepare themselves to go on that call. And then they go on the call and you never know exactly what you're going to get, and you show up and you face whatever it is that is presented to you, which is often very stressful. And then after the call, meditation can be helpful to help reduce those stress levels, to help kind of get some of those adrenaline and cortisol chemicals out of your body and just prepare yourself for whatever you have to do next. So I think that's what's unique for first responders, is that meditation not only helps with the regular day-to-day stuff, but helps with the calls that are really extra high stress.
The aspect I notice, among this demographic is like, there's a healthy skepticism, right? And I think that deserves to be there, right? No one should just believe me just because I'm coming in and saying it's going to work for you, right? So there's a healthy skepticism that I kind of have to cut through, right? And I think these are shorter sessions. These are really just the practice, but I can kind of cut through those with them by being a real person, not by showing up barefoot or doing anything that's like the stereotype that I think surrounds the practice, right? Which keeps a lot of people from doing something that's really healthy and helpful for them. But these guys want to be at their best. They want to take care of their minds and bodies. They want to be there for their families, and so they gravitate towards it. I mean, in terms of like, they're all, they're kind of all in, once seeing is believing, right? So it's like, sometimes it takes a few sessions. Sometimes somebody decides like, this is not for me, and that's really cool.
To me, the biggest problem with meditation is sort of the word itself, right? Because meditation comes with all these connotations that people have that are inaccurate, right? And which I know because I had them too. Movies, TV, whatever, jokes, right? Meditation, people have these perceptions, biases, these conditions around it that they think of, whether it's, kind of summer of love, or whether it's the monk, or whether it's the whatever, they view it as something that it's not. And it has bad packaging. Maybe that's just a media creation, like I said, from movies or TV. If you called meditation mental skills training, and we just eliminated the word meditation from our vocabulary, it would pick up a lot more steam.
All right, so this is The one place today that we're not going to be able to bring cameras inside, we're at Hampshire County Jail and House of Corrections. This is a place that I've worked on and off for the last 3 years, bringing meditation and mindfulness classes to the men inside these walls. This is sort of proof positive of what today is all about, that this practice does not discriminate, that it is for anyone, anywhere, and I've seen that firsthand. I've heard from the men here that it has worked for them firsthand, and so these are some of my favorite students. This is one of my favorite places to teach. I'll be honest with you, when I first started here, it was a intense environment. I would leave here absolutely gassed. It's a place I look forward to coming to now. I miss it when I'm not able to come up here as often, and yeah, we're gonna see what happens inside. I'll report back in a little while.
I've always been a believer of mind, body, and soul. So the benefits of meditation for our group of men is holistic healing. And the belief in that is that they're with us for reasons that are out of our control. If we can change their mindset and offer a different way of thinking through meditation and through guidance of work on themselves, hopefully that will turn over something in their mindset. To see the guys be so comfortable in Billy's class to actually shut their eyes and totally relax, it says a lot about what Billy offers to them. To have that secure space where they can just totally be and be silent and be at peace and close their eyes and just generally release it's just, I mean, it just gives me chills that they're that comfortable with doing that. And it gives them a sense of walking out of that space and having less stress on them, which is a beautiful thing. I never thought this would be my job. I've always been in education. I was a special ed advocate. I've taught at colleges. I can't even imagine doing anything differently. I am so committed to the men. I want them to know that success is within their reach. And I try to make that happen for them. So as I mentioned before, mind, body, soul, right? The interaction with their children, the interaction with their loved ones, thinking internally before speaking, taking that 1 minute and not being full force on your response. And we've seen it. We've seen it, and I've seen it. I know Billy sees it, you know, when he comes in, but on a daily basis, I can see people walking away from a situation versus having that confrontation. I can see it in their demeanor on the phones with their loved ones, when they have visits with their children. There's a different side, and it's okay to let that side out because it's good. The benefit for meditation for my men is to encompass who they are, not who they think they should be. And when you release that, I think your whole world will change. You know, you're letting in good energy and you're releasing all the bad energy. And that in itself just changes life completely.
They were awesome. You know, it's when you're in like a room like that, you know, like like I said, it's the easiest place to teach and sometimes the hardest, but it's the best. Like you just see like calm descend over. We had 15 guys in there, you know, and all walks of life, all sort of orange, white, green jumpsuits, and they dig it. Not everyone's into it, but that just felt very comfortable. So ready to do the thing. Yeah, on to the next. Let's do it. So like the number one thing is we're not trying to stop thinking. We're trying to change the relationship to thoughts, right? That we might not take them all as seriously as we did in the past, right? And it's just by shifting focus. Instead of having our focus be, as you're gonna find, from the neck up on everything that's going on in here, to sort of try and drop it to the neck down and switch our focus to something other than the thinking mind. If that makes sense. All right, so we can sit up nice and tall. And if it feels good to close your eyes, you can go ahead and close your eyes. That's not necessary though. You might just cast your gaze a few feet out in front of you. See if you can get maybe 5 or 10% more comfortable. I say you want to sit upright without being uptight. So nice long spine, and then the arms can go soft off the body. Can loosen some of the muscles. And then just take a nice slow deep breath in through the nose. And exhale the breath away. Another nice slow deep breath in. And all the way out. And for a few rounds, we're just going to take 4-2-6 breathing. So just breathing through the nose for a count of 4. Holding the breath for a count of 2. And exhaling the breath away for a count of 6. So your version of in for 4, hold for 2, out for 6. But this doesn't need to be forceful. If this starts to feel uncomfortable, you can just breathe in any way that's easeful for you. At the start of practice, we're just sort of slowing down the breath. That tends to slow down everything else in our experience. In fact, just by lengthening the exhales longer than the inhales, you take yourself out of the stress response and bring yourself to the relaxation response, the parasympathetic nervous system. And the breath is sort of like water finding its level. If you don't try and control it, it will land just where it needs to be. And as the natural rhythm of breath flows, we're just going to take a few moments to check in with the physical body. So you can start by feeling the crown of the head, smoothing out the forehead and relaxing the muscles around the eyes. Notice if the jaw is clenched and maybe just soften and loosen around the jaw. Maybe just appreciating that right here and right now. There's nowhere else to go. There's nothing else to do. Of course, it might be that the mind wants to do something, that it starts planning or organizing or reliving something that's already happened, and that's totally normal. And then just notice the light streaming in from behind the eyelids. Notice the physical sensations of the body. Movement can return to the hands. Maybe you start to stretch or fidget. Maybe a big one like you're waking up in the morning. And whenever it feels comfortable, you can blink your eyes back open and find your way into the space around you. How'd we do? Great. You know, we all spend so much time external, so much time multitasking, so much attention put out there, that I think just silently, it's, when you bring it inside, it's just sort of centering, calming, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, so I would do it that way. And, you know, I think the best meditation practice is the one that works for you, right? But what's been interesting, you know, Aiden behind the camera here can attest. What's been interesting about today is, like, I basically taught this meditation or another meditation where you count the breath, right? That's all I've been teaching all day long. It's like, it's not like there's a type of meditation for an inmate and a type of meditation for a police officer and one for a social worker and one at Pleasant View, right? It's like, if you can sit and you can breathe, you can meditate. But yeah, so this idea of meditation dressed up in religion or dressed up in some hippie culture, yeah, it has some roots in those things, but that's like being like sports are fighting to the death in the Coliseum, right? Sports are MMA, right? Where it's like, okay, that's one, yeah, that's is and it's not, right? So meditation, when you really break it down, is simple. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it's simple, right? And essentially what you do is you sit down, you take a step out of external activity, and all you do is you focus on something. You try and relax the body, and you focus on something. Focus on the breath, focus on a mantra, and as your mind wanders, which it will, one of the great misnomers is that you're somehow supposed to clear your mind. That's impossible. We have about 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Your brain can produce the equivalent of 4,000 words spoken out loud per minute in internal dialogue when it's really humming. Like, you can't stop that activity. So we're not trying to stop thoughts, we're trying to change relationships to thoughts, right? Where, okay, a thought's going on, but can I divert my attention or can I choose to bring my attention to something else? That might be more productive in that moment than whatever bullshit I'm thinking. And that's the number one thing that I get from people is, oh, no, I could never do that because I'm one of those people who can't stop thinking, right? Oh, you can't stop thinking? Everyone else is walking around with clear minds? Like, no, everyone who's ever lived is thinking all the time, right? So it's like this idea that you're somehow unique because you think a lot or you're busy or whatever. It's like, that's part of it for everyone who practices. And so that misperception that either one, you're supposed to stop your thoughts entirely and clear your mind, which Dan Harris says, either you're dead or you've reached nirvana, so I'm very sorry or congratulations. This idea that you can just clear your mind, that keeps people from it, or that it's somehow connected to some very woo-woo metaphysical belief system, which if you want to do it that way, go for it. But at your most basic level, you're sitting down and you're paying attention to being alive, right? There couldn't be something more human or universal than that. We are past the halfway point. This is the first stop we won't get to early, which is okay. You know, this day was always going to be a lot to get through, a lot of places to stop. This is, you know, I think the day has gone well so far. I would guess that at this point we've probably led 50 or 60 people in meditation, maybe 45 to 60, somewhere in there. So to think that it's been, you know, 5 hours at this point, that we've brought that many people to school. And this is the last stop in terms of working with first responders. So we've already had dispatchers, police, firefighters, crests up in Amherst, social workers, and then this is the Connecticut Department of Corrections, so correction staff. We've been to some quote-unquote hard places today, right? Some places that it would seem very difficult to practice in, or some people who might not be your typical meditators. And then we get to start to expand out to younger people, to teachers, to people who maybe don't have the day-to-day imminent danger that maybe a police officer or a firefighter has, but who have stresses all their own, who are dealing with just as much humanity as everybody else. And for me, you know, working with inmates, a lot of times the buy-in doesn't come just because it's effective for the inmates, but sometimes it's top down. You know, it's like why should I do what you're telling me to do if you don't do it, right? And you know, I always use the example of coaching of like, I would never ask a kid to, you know, run 8 miles if I couldn't run 8 miles. Like I might not be able to do it as fast or as well, but that's the whole concept. And I think getting staff at a corrections institute in is huge for the buy-in from the inmates. Hi, Jelena.
Really?
Yeah.
So nobody's here.
Oh, that's totally cool. Hey, these are the These are the breaks of the meditation business.
So what happened here, Billy?
So they put it out to staff, and people didn't take them up on it. That's what happens sometimes. They put it out there to their staff. People shift change, so I get that's difficult, but people might not be ready for it yet, and that's totally fine. That's what happens when you bring it places that you might not expect to find it, so that's what happens sometimes. I knew one of those was going to happen today. It might not be the last one, but yeah, so we were at the Enfield Prison, Connecticut DOC, and unfortunately no takers on the practice, which is not uncommon, right? This is part of the making, there's still a barrier up for a lot of people, and that makes sense. I think the practice has been sort of misinterpreted or misrepresented, or there are stereotypes around it that don't always make people feel comfortable, especially in a line of work like corrections. Like, I prepared going into today knowing that it wasn't all going to be sort of it wasn't all going to go swimmingly, because not much in life will go that way. And so I don't take it personally. I don't take it as like anything went wrong. It's just sort of letting the invite be out there, and then people can take it or not take it. And if they don't take it, that's nothing for me that's particularly nothing I can do about it, and be here when people are ready for it. And I think there's a lot of people who are, but there's a lot of people who they have other methods, they have other practices, or they just don't conceive of meditation as a viable option for them. And that's totally normal, because as I've said many times today and throughout my life, I didn't view meditation as a viable option for me. So yeah, I'm used to it, and it used to bother me more at some level. It's more just expectations versus reality sometimes, but I'm pretty good with it at this point, that it's not for everyone. Not everyone's going to believe me. Not everyone's going to show up. One of my meditation teachers always told me, just go into every room thinking 50% of the people are going to love you and 50% are going to think you're full of shit, and which is just a good rule of advice for life. And yeah, that's probably going to be the numbers at the end of today anyway. So, we're just focused on the 50% who kind of are in and are listening. I started meditating because I needed to do something different. And for me, at first, I did it because I needed it. And now I do it because, one, I love it. I think it's fun. Meditation is supposed to be fun, but also it's sort of you're growing the muscle so you have it when you need it, right? Or you're being proactive so that capacity is there already, right? That I'm not doing it, it's not break glass in case of emergency. I'm building that up already. And the way I see the world going, there's more stress, there's not less, right? Our phones, our screen times, laptops, emails, all these things are creating a lot of stress. And I see, you don't run into somebody you haven't seen in a while and you're like, how's it going? It's always crazy, I'm busy, right? No one ever goes everything's pretty smooth, pretty easy. That doesn't get said. And our world is faster, our world is more stressful. Technology is having effects right now that I don't think we know what the fallout's gonna be. And so anxiety is on the rise, depression is on the rise, mental health issues, insomnia, sleep deprivation, all these things are sort of on the rise. And so to me, it's an act of resistance against the speed of the world we're in, but also a necessary skill for just living in the modern world, is to take that step back, to actually calm things down, and to grow the ability to focus, and then to bring that with you in the rest of your life. I was teaching at Wilbraham and Munson Academy at the time, and we had 2 young alumni die by suicide in pretty short order of one another. Another student from a town over who was friends with some Wilbraham Munson Academy kids also died the same way. And I had a student who was going to get up and talk about mental health in front of the whole school. And this was not a student who I could get to talk in front of 12 people in English class. And I was a little concerned for him, honestly. And I was like, okay, I'll get up with you. And I just
was going to talk about the Headspace app. And I basically got up there and was like, you know, we can be sort of proactive, and this is something that I've been doing, trying this Headspace thing. It seems to really, I like it. It seems to really work. It's and literally advertising like an app, basically, being like, this is working for me. And when I left that day, the headmaster of the school, who's a hardcore guy of himself, he's a former Army Ranger, he was waiting for me outside, and he was like, we need to bring this to campus. And I was like, yeah, we do need to bring this to campus. And he was like, yeah, we could really use somebody to teach this on campus. And I was like, we got to find that person. And he was like, I want it to be you, dummy, right? And so that started a conversation. That was in 2017, I guess. 2018 into 2019, so that late fall through the winter, spring, I took a meditation teacher training in Boston. That summer, I had a travel grant where I went to Nepal and I sat a silent meditation retreat, basically because I had imposter syndrome, because I was gonna come back to teach meditation on campus in the fall of 2019, and I was like, I can't do this, I'm not ready for this. So I went and did basically the hardest thing I could possibly think of, and it was that hard. But I came back and I started teaching meditation just on campus, really as a course that combined meditation and literature. I was an English teacher at the time, and I combined those two things. So we learned how to meditate. At the same time, we read sort of spiritually inclined literature, Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, a book called Saltwater Buddha by Jamal Yogis, Eat, Pray, Love, a couple different books. And that's where really I sort of got like built up the reps of doing it. Because I'd maybe led a meditation or two before. I'd occasionally do it at like a yoga studio as a one-off, but it was mostly like I'd have a script and I'd really prepare, but I was just doing it every day. And so I got really comfortable talking about the practice, teaching the practice, and it was very effective for the kids in that class, and that ends up spilling outwards, right? Where I'm like, well, if it works for these, when it was working for me, it was working for these 15 kids in front of me, but it's like, I want to bring it to more people, and ran a couple workshops at different places. I ended up joining to teach at Sweat in 2020. And was teaching at yoga studios in there, and then opportunities started coming up more, and that's when it was the most exciting thing in my life to do, was to get to teach this stuff and share this stuff. And so in 2023, I started my own company, and that's the Mellow Elephant, through which I work with incarcerated populations. I've been doing that for about 3 years now. Police officers, probably about 3 years doing that as well. I've worked with teachers, social workers, athletes, corrections officers, firefighters, all these different groups. And it's always been the idea, because I didn't think meditation was for someone like me, it kind of qualified me to teach people who don't think meditation is for them. And so that is kind of the whole idea, is like meditation in places you wouldn't expect to find it, for people who don't think meditation is for them. And I think that's what I'm particularly good at communicating.
All right. Well, I'll just give you a little bit of background. I don't know if how much you guys know that we're doing today, but my name is Billy Rosenbeck. I am a graduate of Minnechaug. If this goes well, this will be my greatest athletic contribution to the school, is helping the next generation. Aiden, who's behind the camera over here, and I have been on a road trip all day long. Today is World Meditation Day, and so from 7:45 this morning, we've been on the road bringing meditation to places you might not expect to find meditation. And it's not like there's a different meditation for you guys versus a firefighter versus an inmate, okay? The whole point of today is to prove that this practice is non-discriminatory, okay? It can work anywhere because it works everywhere. That's not for a specific type of person. It's not for a specific type of place. As I'm told, as you all look like, this is a group of athletes, right? And I work with athletes a lot. We're often told, like, keep your head in the game or get your head in the game. But people like to say that, but I don't think people really know what that means, right? Next play, just let it go. Okay, how? How? Everyone tells you to let it go, but no one tells you how to actually go about doing that, right? Let movement come back into the space around you. Whenever it feels comfortable, you can blink your eyes back open. Maybe take a stretch like you're waking up first thing in the morning. Come back. Just check in with how you feel. So how do we do, my friends?
Good.
Good? Good? What? What'd you like about it?
Just relaxed.
Yeah? Yeah, go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, I felt like I was like letting go of all like the extra stuff and like really focused on like right here and now.
All right, we just finished up at my alma mater, Minnetonka Regional High School. Biggest group yet, working with student athletes. We probably have 40 kids in there, I would bet. The children are our future. It is very interesting how receptive, younger people are to this. Athletes are. They were awesome, super well received. We almost came to blows over some of the NOSOLO hats, but wicked enthusiastic. So cool to be back here and to see like how open these kids are to this practice. So one more stop to go. It's time for the celebration. We made it. It's been a day. No, I want to thank you guys all for coming tonight to come out and support today. The whole thesis of what I did today was basically like something that I've always believed, which is meditation can work anywhere because meditation works everywhere. And traditionally, those spaces have been yoga studios and monasteries, and I've always been interested in what would happen if you bring it outside of those places. That's where a lot of the work I do through the Mellow Elephant, which is a total labor of love, brings me. My last thank you and one more shout out. Again, all you guys for coming down here. Everyone today who's given the practice a chance. I've told everyone, when the Buddha used to teach this, he used to say, see for yourself what brings contentment, clarity, and peace. That's the path for you to follow. And that means try it out. Don't believe me. Nobody should believe me. They should try it out for themselves and then, give it a chance. We've given a taste to a lot of people of meditation today. And last time, I just want to say thank you. I know that this was not an individual effort. Like I said, all day I got to do the fun part where I got a bunch of people to relax, and then I was just like, okay, back to work, right? And then we ran to the next place and just did the fun part again. But this was the collective effort of a lot of people, 10 locations who let us in, a lot of people who helped behind the scenes, obviously family and friends here who have supported and been sounding boards and things like that. So cheers, thank you guys for coming out. Happy World Meditation Day, and the first round was on me. Next round is on you. Meditation doesn't pay that well, so I did what I could. Thank you, guys. My first meditation teacher, Andy Kelly, the Boston Buddha, he's always said, the biggest thing you have going for you is that you're just a normal guy. Just a regular guy, and that's what it needs to be. It needs to be regular, it needs to be normal, it needs to be common. I think I'm on the right side of history with meditation. 10 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, I think it's gonna be like jogging or exercising. My grandfather didn't go out for runs. Like there was no gym. He was in shape because, I don't know, he was like doing yard work or whatever, right? Or like there wasn't as much high fructose corn syrup in food. 100 years ago, people weren't running 5Ks and weren't going to gyms, but now that's absolutely common, right? And there's a lot of changes we see. I think meditation is going to be one of them that, a few decades down the line, it's going to be like meditation is just something that people do. It's, for me, if I don't meditate now, it's like not showering or not brushing my teeth, right? Human beings didn't come to this
clean it with toothbrushes. Like we learn to do that behavior because it's good for us, right? And this is another behavior I think we'll end up learning because it's good for us. And with the world we're in today, the speed of it all, right? I find it a little bit of an act of resistance to sort of step out of these forces that want you to be sped up and always hurrying and more screen time and more purchases and whatever. To take that time, to take that step back, to me, feels like kind of countercultural, right? It's a little bit of a middle finger, and I like that part of it. There's a little punk rock element to it.